Thank you so much for joining us today as we advance as a discipleship group, striving for knowledge, understanding, and eventual comprehension of the energies of Scorpio in this part 3 of the science of relations for this sign. As we advance together into a deeper understanding of the new astrology, we are going to use meditation 4 to assist us as a group in our endeavor to build our knowledge as a group, engender understanding, and to eventually comprehend our role in service to humanity, awakening soul consciousness through our radiatory healing service and other projects. We always practice in group formation to establish and confirm that which Master DK calls a feeling of shared responsibility, a recognition of group assets and group richness, again using, as he calls it, a peculiar word, and a realization of possibility, which may greatly strengthen each and all of you.
Before we begin, let us align as soul with all those studying and meditating with Master Zhuang Kun. Breathe in effortlessly and easily. See our group moving through the field of lotus blossoms, lining our path toward Master DK's study. We pause as the ivory door, which opens as the Master greets us and invites us in for our contemplative approach to the energies of Scorpio. We stand around Master DK and see 3 windows filled with light. We stand in silence as he turns and faces the east. We all together enter into this light. In Scorpio, the light of day. This is the place where 3 lights meet. The light of form, the light of soul, and the light of life. They meet, they blend, they rise.
Meditation 4 involves 3 stages: the stage of recognition, the stage of consideration, and finally, the stage of fixed determination.
We recognize our pledged discipleship. Breathing easily and effortlessly, we align first with our own soul and then sound the home, linking to the group heart center on a line of lighted energy.
We recognize our equipment, gratefully rendered. With deep gratitude, we thank all those group members for their contributions to our service, sounding their names and expressing our gratitude to those who assist us from the other side of the veil.
Take a moment and think of the group and your groups and hold the vision of all, sounding the names of those you know. on an Om of gratitude and bringing in the energies of all those who assist us from the other side of the veil and those who could not be with us today. We recognize our achieved alignment. We see the group centers, vivid, radiatory, and aligned, and the flow of energy vitalizing the group.
We recognize the soul, the source of love wisdom. We see the group soul light, and on a line of light, reach toward the spiritual triad, open to receive the downflow of goodwill, love wisdom, and intelligence.
And we recognize the hierarchy. The 7 ashrams of the masters, receiving the impress of purpose and plan, and the energy of the will to love from Shambhala.
During the meditation itself, all this should be done very rapidly, holding the consciousness steadily in the mind and not in the head. It presupposes an immediate mental focusing of the disciple at the very beginning of his meditation work.
As we move together through the next stages of the meditation formula, let's review briefly some of the relationships implied in our recognitions and alignment, and points of focus for consideration as we move to the next stage, visualizing the linking of what we have contemplated together over the last 2 years in the light of the meditation formula given by Master Dwell Cool. In our studies with the Master, we have been given so many images to assist us in understanding the relationships with which we align. Let us now create a unity of mind and a unity of thought, merging symbols which help us to awaken the intuition and images that relate these important visual representations. We begin with visualizing the constitution of man at the highest level, the logoic plane, where the 7 rays pour their energy into Shambhala and the Lord of the world, that highest point of the triangle that we invoke. And the energy is moving to the planetary heart, the hierarchy, and to humanity. And we invoke the triangle of Shambhala, humanity, and hierarchy, uniting will, love, wisdom, and intelligence. Sirius, working in a sevenfold manner through the seven rays and through the seven groups within the hierarchy, as these constitute the active hierarchy. And vitalize the Master's ashrams. Let us enter the second stage of the meditation.
Let us enter into the second stage of consideration, together holding our achieve alignment, and consider the ashram as a whole. That is, consideration of the hierarchy as the ashram of Sanat Kumara. Using the creative imagination, see all the ashrams in close contact with Shambhala. In the circle, you can see the image of the entire hierarchy in its entirety, substanding the indigo blue ring. The hierarchy at the level of consciousness that is the planetary heart center, imbued with love wisdom. Now, consider the hierarchy as responsive to the purpose. Impressed by the energy of will. Vitalizing the initiates and disciples who are affiliated with the masters and working in their ashrams. The hierarchy as reaching out through the accept and pledge disciple into the world of men.
Hold this alignment. Maintain the connection as accepted and pledged disciples of the inflow of energy from the hierarchy into the world of men.
We say with purpose and determination, I strive towards comprehension. Thy will, not mine, be done.
All the above section of our meditation work concerns purpose, will, and the destiny of Shambhala, to use an old occult phrase. An essential component of the meditation 4 formula is developing understanding of the distinction among purpose, will, and intention. Purpose itself is only an energy released within the confines of a console chamber. There, it must take shape. Purpose is passive and involves the Buddhic or intuitional plane. Purpose relates to the fourth initiation. Purpose concerns the throat center. Purpose is the light upon the path. The will is an expression of the law of sacrifice. Will is active. Will involves the astral plane. Will relates to the second initiation. Will concerns the heart center, the advancing point of light. An intention described by Master DK in the race and the initiation as developed will expresses itself as tension, esoterically understood. It embodies the ideas of orientation, implacable determination, ability to wait and to preserve intention, and orientation unmoved by aught which might occur. It also involves the determination to take intended action, always as a creative nature and based on loving understanding, at the psychological moment, right timing, or that exact moment which the psyche or soul determines to be correct.
We will later consider this differentiation of purpose, will, and intention, knowing that in every one of our meditations as a group, we hold the intention of healing with the motivation that is pure and embodies this higher intention, orientation, implacable determination, and the ability to wait, unmoved by aught which may occur. BK shows us the monad as will, love, wisdom, and intelligence. In Scorpio, we focus our attention to the monad energizing the spiritual triad, and the monad as the third eye of the logos, and what in that relationship to the planetary logos is akin to what the third eye is for us as humanity. In his analysis, Jeff Logie has assigned ordered purpose to the Buddhic plane, the plane that we reach when we, as a group, move our energies to the spiritual triad and touch the intuitive plane to develop our intuition as a group. Having considered the ashram as a whole and the flow of energies, let us now consider the world of souls, which is the hierarchy in relation to humanity and in relation to Shambhala. This involves a study of the nature of the hierarchical effort as it is expressed through love, the plan as love. Love as that synthetic, inclusive grasp of the life and needs of all beings, which is the high prerogative of a divine Son of God to operate. Consider the hierarchy linking Shambhala and humanity, and the plan entirely focused on having this synthetic grasp of life and the needs of all beings expressed through love. Visualize, as Master DK tells us at this present time, Shambhala has a direct line to humanity. Humanity, a direct line to hierarchy. In developing the intuition and reaching to the Buddhic plane, we can begin to draw down hierarchical intent. The will to love from Shambhala becomes the will to good in hierarchy and becomes goodwill emanating toward humanity with the intention of establishing right human relations. Love, Buddhic love.
It, Buddhic love, negates all that builds barriers, makes criticism, and produces separation. It, Buddhic love, sees no distinction, even when it appreciates need. And it, Buddhic love, produces in one who loves as a soul immediate identification with that which is loved.
We connect with that Buddhic love in every radiatory healing meditation. We draw down and with skill in action, bring that Buddhic love into play in all our relations.
I strive towards understanding. Let wisdom take the place of knowledge in my life.
Energy follows thought, and the eye directs the energy. We use the ajna center and the so-called third eye. And in developing right human relations, the personality reflects the threefold soul life. Now let us consider our group as a unit in Master Dwal Kul's ashram. This involves recognizing the aspect of the planned work we are equipped to do, determining how to do it, considering the factor of preparation for eventual initiation as a means of increasing our capacity for hierarchical cooperation, energizing by light, faith, love, and power the spiritual center within which we serve and the Ashramic projects for which we accept responsibility. In this instance, it can be any of the Ashramic projects with which you are involved, and of course, our radiatory healing service activities. Purpose, to plan, to service. Energizing by light, faith, love, and power. This spiritual center within which we serve, and the Ashramic projects for which we accept responsibility. And we say together,
I strive towards cooperation. Let the master of my life, the soul, and likewise the one I seek to serve, throw light through me on others.
recall the word that you chose to focus on in Scorpio from the 6 words for disciples. Recollection, response, radiation, respiration, reunion, reorientation. See the connection as we cooperate, the monad energizing the spiritual triad, and the soul embodying love, love wisdom, and the qualities of the Buddhic plane. Divine idealism, intuition, divine vision, healing. The soul, the causal body, expressing itself through the 3 aspects of the mind. and the personality cooperating, reflecting the threefold soul. With spiritual discernment and discrimination, we respond to the soul. We respond to group vibration.
Stage 3. The stage of fixed determination. 1. A reflection upon the distinction between purpose, will, and intention. Revelation. Purpose itself is only an energy released within the confines of the council chamber. There it must take shape. Purpose is passive. Purpose involves the Buddhic or intuitional plane. Revelation. The will is an expression of the law of sacrifice. Will is active. It involves the astral plane. It concerns the heart center, the advancing point of light. And intention. With purity of motive, inspired by a loving heart, we offer our group for this healing service. This offer we make as a group. 2. A period of complete focused silence as you seek to present an unobstructed channel for the inflow of light, love, and strength from the hierarchy. A statement made by you, the soul, the disciple, to the personality. In the center of the will of God I stand. Naught shall deflect my will from His. I implement that will by love. I turn towards the field of service. I, the triangle divine, work out that will within the square and serve my fellow men. If you can do this work correctly, you will not only greatly increase your own realization, service, and understanding, but you will definitely be cooperating in the task of externalizing the ashram and furthering the work of the hierarchy from the foundation angle in relation to the new age, and so aid in bringing in the new civilization, the new world attitudes, and the new world religion.
This is a summary of the 4 points of revelation that we've incorporated into meditation 4.
Let us sound together as one group the mantram of the disciples' degree. May the energy of the divine self inspire us and the light of the soul direct. May we be led from darkness to light, from the unreal to the real, from death to immortality.
We're going to review some of the connections to transmutation, our task as disciples. We'll do this rather rapidly and not take a great deal of time in order that we may contemplate in greater depth the relationships to Scorpio. Master DK gives us diagram 3 in esoteric astrology, which helps us understand the progression, the transcending energies coming from one of the stars of the Great Bear and one of the 7 rays, moving through 3 constellations that are transmitting those energies into the sun, transforming, and then transfiguring through the 7 sacred planets and the 4 non-sacred planets to the earth, a non-sacred planet, the recipient, where the transmutation for all life, all beings on the planet, is occurring through the process of evolution and our work on the path. Back in Leo, we looked at this triangle of humanity. It's included here just to remind us that the transmitting constellations for the 3 important crisis points are Capricorn, Scorpio, and Leo. And then in Capricorn, it is the consciousness of the warring dualities that leads us onto the path of discipleship with the crisis in Scorpio. Very quickly, with these very rudimentary symbols, we use visualization, which is always a directing energy employed to bring about a specific desired effect. So in our study, we use the creative imagination. We are visualizing from instinct to intellect to develop the intuition, which is on the 4th subplane of the cosmic etheric plane, the Buddhic plane. And in order to do that, the process of transmutation occurs to achieve personality integration and the great importance of discrimination, using the mind, held steady in the light, and then projecting to the spiritual triad to begin to touch intuition. The whole process, transmutation. So using the creative imagination and visualizing this process. In Scorpio, humanity learning the lessons of appetite, transmuting lower instincts into intellect, developing contact with the soul, and with increasing love wisdom, touching the intuition. Always in group formation. And using vision to develop a sense of divine vision, so that humanity, learning the lessons and envisioning fulfillment of the plan. Let us now sound together the mantra of unification in order to stimulate this transmutation process.
The mantra of unification. The souls of all are one, and we are one with them. We seek to love, not hate. We seek to serve and not exact due service. We seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring to light the love that underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all people love.
Let us continuously integrate all that we are learning in this science of relations, so that each time when we utter the mantra of unification, we are bringing that higher understanding and comprehension to humanity, lifting and aiding humanity towards that higher love and soul control, soul consciousness. That love prevail and that all people love. Now again, rather quickly, let us look at the second, probably most important triangle of transmitting energies involving Scorpio. Transmitting mind, consciousness. This, the seventh triangle of the major signs of the unfoldment of the mind, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Taurus. And remembering from the earlier parts 1 and 2, this stream of energy in connection with the path of discipleship, the influential energies that we are able to access from Sirius through the fixed cross and Scorpio, so that we are engaged in the process of reorientation at the first, second, and third initiations as a group and in our larger groups, able to access and get in our minds the distributing agency of those energies of the various kingdoms, the hierarchy, and move toward the externalization of the hierarchy, and using the potent energies of Mars in relation to Scorpio, and later Saturn in Capricorn, when rightly employed, bringing liberation from form control and the release of the conscious individual at the third initiation. Master DK places Mars in a triangle of solar fire, magnetic energy, and initiation. And Mars, as a non-sacred planet, is involved in the transfiguration process. It's very important for us to recognize the terminology that Master DK gives us in diagram 3 that we looked at earlier. And this we will explore further in Capricorn, because with this triangle uniting Scorpio and Taurus on the fixed cross through Mars and this hierarchy ruled by Capricorn, we're given a hint as to the importance of Mars in relation to the mental plane and the use of mind. And we might relate then the fourth ray, the second ray, and the sixth rays to the 7 solar systems of which ours is one. We'll look at this further at another time. But just for example, the relationships to contemplate in Capricorn relate then to Venus and this mystery of the Makara and the human personality. A triangle that we will explore in a little greater depth is the triangle of death, the 3 signs that transmit the energies that bring about admittance into one of the 3 planetary centers. Aries, which we are told is the death into form, into humanity. The second death in Pisces on the mutable cross. And then the third death, the death of the personality. And this brings about that previous connection or relationship to Capricorn. And Pisces, Scorpio, and Capricorn are also signs related to each of the 3 crosses. So there's an important linkage here of the 2 triangles involving these 4 zodiacal signs, transmitting this energy of the merging of the 3 crosses that are called the signs of death.
In relation to the passing from the physical form, there is no death. There is, as you know, entrance into fuller life. There is freedom from the handicaps of the fleshly vehicle. Death is essentially a matter of consciousness. We are conscious one moment on the physical plane, and a moment later we have withdrawn onto another plane and are actively conscious there. Just as long as our consciousness is identified with the form aspect, death will hold for us its ancient terror. Just as soon as we know ourselves to be souls and find that we are capable of focusing our consciousness or sense of awareness in any form or any plane at will or in any direction within the form of God, we shall no longer know death. The 4 stages of this death that is essentially a matter of consciousness. Stage 1, by the withdrawal from the dense physical body. Stage 2, by the withdrawal from the etheric body. Stage 3, by a later vacating of the astral body. And stage 4, a final leaving of the mental body. All severing of links produces severe reactions. Yet if you could but realize it, the severing of the outer physical plane links is the least severe and the most impermanent of all such events. Death itself is a part of the great illusion and only exists because of the veils which we have gathered around ourselves. Thus, in our assisting transitions meditations, we recall Master DK's teachings on the law of abstraction. Death in Scorpio is of a different nature, and is also described in the same ancient writing in the following words. Ancient One dies by drowning, such is the test. The waters envelop him, and there's no escape, he drowns. The fires of passion are then quenched. The life of desire ceases its appeal, and to the bottom of the lake he now descends. Later he reascends to earth, where the white horse waits his coming, and this he mounts, Sagittarian attitudes, proceeding towards the second death, that is, towards Pisces, with the influence of Pluto, the death of desire.
It is in Scorpio that the prodigal son comes to himself, and having eaten of the husks of life, and having exhausted the resources of worldly desire and ambition, he says, I will arise and go to my father. There are two such major crises in the life of the aspirant. The first, the turn from Sagittarius to Scorpio on the wheel. When the intelligent man of the world comes to himself and then reorients himself to the soul and its requirements, this leads to the tests of Scorpio. The second crisis, through Scorpio, reorienting to the monad. When the initiate of the third degree, upon a higher turn of the spiral, reorients himself to the monad and passes through the most subtle tests to certain undefinable and spiritual recognitions. Upon these we need not enlarge, for it is ahead of all of us. Liberation from the soul vehicle and destruction of the causal body. Yvonne, would you read this for us, please?
Death is of three kinds. This science of divine dying underlies the well-known phrase, the lamb slain from the foundation of the world. And when the relationship between Aries, Scorpio, and Pisces is properly understood as the linking and merging of the three crosses, a new light will be thrown upon all subsidiary sciences, exoteric and esoteric. The teaching in the secret doctrine about the reincarnating monads, who are called the divine sacrifices, lords of knowledge, will, and sacrifice, will be clarified. These monads, who are ourselves, are lords of preserving ceaseless devotion even unto death.
And would you continue, please?
Today, we are watching the death of a civilization or cycle of incarnation of humanity. The period from 1914 to 1945, world crisis, with all its horror and suffering, is, in the last analysis, the result of successful evolutionary processes. We are ready to recognize that when a man's life cycle has been run and he has learned the lessons which the experience of any particular life has been intended to teach, his physical body and the inner form aspects making the sum total of his personality expression will begin to deteriorate. Destructive agencies with the form itself will become active, and eventually death will take place, resulting in the liberation of the indwelling life in order that the new and better form may be built. This we perforce accept, either blindly or intelligently, regarding it as a natural and unavoidable process, but normal and inevitable. We are apt, however, to forget that what is true of the individual is true of humanity. Cycles of civilization, such as that we call our modern civilization, are analogous to a particular individual, human incarnation, with its inception, its progress and growth, its useful maturity, and its ensuing deterioration and subsequent death, or the passing away of the form. That humanity is bringing about this needed change is unnecessary, cruel, and painful ways is indeed true. Just as it is true today that human beings, by their wrong thinking, foolish habits of physical living, and undesirable emotional attitudes, do precipitate a final physical breakdown and eventually death. Nevertheless, for the progress of the soul of the individual and the soul of humanity, death is inevitable, good, and necessary. It is also a practice with which we are all most familiar in our own experience and in watching it in others. But we need to remember that the worst death of all, as far as humanity is concerned, would be if a form of civilization or a body form became static and eternal. If the old order never altered and the old values were never transmuted into higher and better ones, that would indeed be a disaster.
Thank you, Yvonne. Ellen, would you read this for us, please?
We need to bear in mind also that the forces of destruction or death are twofold. First, the rapidly emerging and developing life with its demand for more room for expression and fuller experience, and its spiritual aspiration for change and progress. And secondly, the reactionary forces and the conservative attitudes which adhere to the well-known and the familiar, and which hate the new, the untried, and the unknown. Both of these produce the great and divine transition from the past into the future, and from the old into the new, from experience into fruition, and then into experience again. The realities are eternal and undying. The forms are ephemeral and temporary. The soul is persistent and deathless. The form is changing and doomed to die. The processes of evolution have in the past and will in the future prove successful in bringing forms to birth, to maturity, and to death. But, and this is the interesting and significant point, humanity is for the first time aware of the process. In Scorpio, with the same planet ruling his interior life, the war is on, and in this case, Mars rules not only the physical body, but the entire form vehicle, which we call the personality in the three worlds. All aspects of the lower nature are involved in this crisis. For Mars is the esoteric ruler in Scorpio, and the tests applied involve the form nature, gross and subtle, integrated and potent. Mars therefore rules Aries from the orthodox angle, and Scorpio esoterically, and does not again appear in the life of the individual, except as that individual responds to mass vibration in Sagittarius, where Mars appears as ruling the sixth creative hierarchy, the lunar lords of the form nature, who must eventually be sacrificed to the higher spiritual aspect and brought under the control of the solar angel. The effect of Mars is therefore largely mass effect and group results, producing great struggles, but leading finally to great revelation.
As we move to transition to Sagittarius, it is really important that we are clear in our own minds about this differentiation on the effect of Mars as the potent transmuting force of group relations and mass effect in Sagittarius. And also the transfiguring position of Mars in Scorpio with its relationship as the sole ruler. So keep that in mind, and this really important thought about Mars, instead of using what is traditional language, to use DK's language. You know, Mars as the transmuting factor in the form, at the form level, and Mars as a transfiguring factor on the soul level. So we'll look at that in greater depth in Sagittarius, where our focus will be on aspiration. And this is just to remind us again of DK's telling us we need to look at the creative hierarchies. And if you look at Scorpio, then we see the Mercury, the hierarchical ruler, and then its relationship with Sagittarius and the lunar lords, where form is destroyed, is the destructive power of Mars on the exoteric level, but it is on the hierarchical level in relation to the lunar lords. This will be something, again, we have to look at in greater detail to understand it. And this is a little bit of a synthesizing slide, and I think it's really important for us to think back. We looked in the beginning with Scorpio at the quaternary of Aries, Gemini, Virgo, and Scorpio. So here we have DK's instruction and the knowledge coming through to us that Scorpio, with the influence of Mars and Mercury, in which the note of the evolutionary cycle, which it dominates, is the word made flesh, as we see in relation to that hierarchy, and that it is the sign wherein the Christ demonstrates his control over matter in the guise of the triumphant disciple. So lifting out of the mythology and utilizing our mind, our group mind, to think about Scorpio as humanity having now turning the wheel and beginning to attend from spirit and matter in Aries, soul and body in Gemini, mother and child in Virgo, to the word and the flesh in Scorpio. So this signals this transition for humanity in this great sign of Scorpio, the completion of the divine quaternary of the Christ principle. It's probably one of the most important relationships that we can look at in relation to humanity and Scorpio and the times we are in. Ellen, would you read this, please?
The blood theme and the death theme, the suffering and the dire testing of the disciple, the value of the individual conflict, and the consciousness of the misery of existence are basically due to the combined influences of Scorpio and of Mars, which have ruled Christianity for so long, and which are only now beginning somewhat to lose their influence. A study of the process of death, as the sign of Scorpio conditions them, in the processes of death, as we see them working out in the sign of Pisces, would be of very real value. Death through the influence of Pluto and death through the influence of Mars are widely different. Scorpio brings about eventually the death of the personality, esoterically as well as exoterically. Scorpio is the sign of death and burial in the earth, of descent into the depths in order to be lifted again onto the heights, the mountaintop in Capricorn. It is stated in some of the most ancient books that the heat of the earth, the mother, and the sting of the scorpion are beneficent gifts which the turning of the wheel gives to the man at the beginning and the end. These gifts, when accepted and used, bring a man to liberation and eventually from the control and pain of the fixed cross.
Let us continuously consider these writings, these teachings in relation to humanity as a whole and the discipleship, the path of discipleship, not as individuals, but as groups and as these larger nations and as civilization as a whole. For that is the real teaching. It's not this moment, it is all these moments together in time, bringing about this great long process. Catherine, would you read this for us, please?
Hierarchical ruler Mercury. The second death, purification, but this time through vision, comes to the developed man through the activity of the subjective ruler of the planet, Mercury, who is the illuminating principle which releases the mind, directs the way of man through life, and enables him to become aware of the divine plan, which underlies all his fiery experience.
For us, in Scorpio, the hierarchical ruler, Mercury. But think back to our quaternary. Aries, Gemini, Virgo, and Scorpio. All with Mercury involved. Keep making the relations and think then, as a disciple, in relation to your threefold personality's contribution to group work, group service. Finding this ruler in your own chart and which station, which house, which station is Mercury in, and your gift in the group process to the fulfillment of the quaternary of the Christ principle. Just a thought to consider. Catherine, would you read this, please?
This stage of death and of birth, the two are proceeding simultaneously, can be easily grasped by the esotericist as he studies the World War in its two distinctive periods, 1914 to 1918 and 1939 until 1942. The first stage, if you could see the situation as it truly is, was most definitely the death stage. The second stage, in which we now find ourselves, is literally the stage of birth. The birth pangs of the new order and of the new civilization through which humanity's sense of life can express itself. The mother dies in order that the child may live. The form is sacrificed to the life. But today, the form aspect, the mother or matter aspect, is dying consciously, and just as consciously the child, the infant civilization, is coming into being. This is the new thing, and it is this that we are all participating. It is the death of the personality of humanity and the coming in of the soul. Such a dying is ever a painful process. Pain has always been the purifying agent employed by the lords of destiny to bring about liberation. The accumulated pain of the present war and the inherited pain of the earlier stage, begun in 1914, is bringing about a salutary and changing world consciousness. The Lord of Pain has descended from his throne and is treading the ways of earth today, bringing distress, agony, and terror to those who cannot interpret his ends, but bringing also a re-stimulation of the instinct to self-preservation, which in its higher aspect is the instinct to immortality. It tends to focus humanity's attention upon the life aspect and not upon the form. The names of the Lords of Karma signify symbolically and from the angle of their inner meaning, relationship, enlightenment, pain, and return. Ponder on this. They are all peculiarly active at this time, and in their activity lies the hope of humanity.
Relationship, enlightenment, pain, and return. Ponder on this. Therein lies the hope of humanity. Your vision is oft distorted by the pain and suffering to which the form is subjected, either your own or that of others, individually or en masse. We can certainly relate to that right now. So that you do not see clearly the purpose and the urgency of the life within the form. To many of you, for instance, the World War was a supreme disaster, an agony to be averted in the future at any cost, a dire and dreadful happening indicative of the wickedness of man and the incredible blind indifference of God. To us on the inner side, the World War was in the nature of a major surgical operation made in an effort to save the patient's life. We need to develop a higher vision. He goes on to say, another surgical operation may be necessary, not in order to destroy and end the present civilization, but in order to dissipate the infection and get rid of the fever. It may not, however, be needed, for a process of dissipation, distribution, and absorption has been going on and may prove effective. Let us work towards that end, but at the same time, let us never forget that it is the life, its purpose, and its directed, intentional destiny that is of importance. And also that when a form provides inadequate or too diseased or too crippled for the expression of that purpose, it is, from the point of view of the hierarchy, no disaster when that form has to go. Death is not a disaster to be feared. The work of the destroyer is not really cruel or undesirable. And DK says, I say this to you who am myself upon the ray of love and know its meaning. Accepting this, recognizing the importance of operating from a level that can align with divine intent. Diana, would you read this beautiful mantra for us, which is part of meditation 3 and that we do every month at the time of the full moon?
See here.
And Veronica, would you do this for us, please?
Into the light we move, beckoned to the two by thee. Out of the dark we come, driven thereto by the soul of all. Up from the earth we spring, and into the ocean of life we climb. Together we come, together we move, guided and led by the soul we serve, and by thee. The Master we know, the Master within and the Master without are one. That one are we, the one is all. My soul, thy soul, the Master, and the soul of.
So let's think of this mantra not only in relation to the healing garden meditation, but let us think of it in relation to those last 2 text captures from Education in the New Age, and apply our recognition to our better understanding and eventual comprehension of the need for the shift from this, the death of one civilization and the birth of a new civilization, and allow into your consciousness the full meaning of this mantra. We move toward Master DK, Into the light we move, beckoned thereto by the Master. Out of the dark we come, driven thereto by the soul of all, driven by love wisdom. Up from the earth we spring, out of our own personal and societal considerations, and into the ocean of light we plunge. Together we come, together we move, guided and led by the soul we serve, and by thee, the Master we know. The Master within and the Master without are one. That one are we. The one is all. My soul, thy soul, the Master, and the soul of all. Ponder on that, the greater recognition of the deep meaning of this mantra. Lifting ourselves out of our individual concerns and personality opinions, strife, pain, whatever, and moving into soul as one.
Scorpio leads to the final battle, the dweller on the threshold against the angel of the presence. This dweller is the sum total of all the personality characteristics which have remained unconquered and unsubdued, and which must be finally overcome before initiation can be taken. Each life sees some progress made, some personality defects straightened out, and some real advance effected. But the unconquered residue and the ancient liabilities are numerous and excessively potent, and when soul contact is adequately established, there eventuates a life wherein the highly developed and powerful personality becomes, in itself, the dweller on the threshold. Then the angel of the presence and the dweller stand face to face, and something must then be done. Eventually, the light of the personal self fades out and wanes in the blaze of glory which emanates from the angel. Then the greater glory obliterates the lesser. This is, however, only possible when the personality eagerly enters into this relation with the angel, recognizes itself as the dweller, and, as a disciple, begins the battle between the pairs of opposites and enters into the tests of Scorpio. Scorpio, a water sign, Sagittarius, a fire sign, and Capricorn, an earth sign, are the three signs that lead to the fusion of the dweller and the angel. These tests and trials are ever self-initiated. The disciple puts himself into the positive or conditioning environment wherein the trials and the discipline are unavoidable and inevitable. When the mind has reached a relatively high stage of development, the memory aspect is evoked in a new and conscious manner, and then every latent predisposition, every racial and national instinct, every unconquered situation, and every controlling fault rises to the surface of consciousness, and then the fight is on. The keynote of Scorpio is, however, triumph. This is its major expression upon the physical plane. As a result of struggle and of victory, the whole divine man, not yet perfectly expressing himself, if I might word the situation thus, is anchored upon the physical plane with such accuracy and clarity that there is no escape from the environing conclusions of the disciple's family, friends, and group that he is a disciple. From that angle, he is meticulously watched. He learns the meaning of the word example. He is pilloried by those who are onlookers, and the first conscious stages toward group awareness and group response plus group service are now taken. Such is the outcome and the reward of the experience in Scorpio.
He goes on to say, there's little more that I need say and little else upon which I need at this stage of study to comment. The man who is nearing the path of discipleship or who is already a disciple pledged or under observation will profit much from a deep and systematic study of Scorpio. The keynotes we have reviewed before, and they can be stated as struggle, strength, and Sagittarian attitudes.
Let us look again at them. The fixed cross, the cross of transmutation, on which desires become aspirations and selfishness is transformed into selflessness. Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo. The fixed cross is the cross of light, and playing through this cross all the time, and emanating from Leo are the fires of God, cosmic, solar, and planetary, producing purification, the intensification of the light, and eventual revelation to the purified man who stands in light.
On this cross of transmutation, this cross of light, which is also the cross of pain, we are at a great point of crisis with wider implications. For the first time in its history, humanity is beginning to mount the fixed cross of the disciple, thus reversing its progress on the circle of the zodiac. Desire in Taurus becomes spiritual aspiration in Scorpio. The darkness of the experience in Scorpio becomes illumination in Taurus. For it must never be forgotten that where the pairs of opposites are concerned, they gain and profit from each other. For there is a direct line of force and a contact between the two. This is a fact which is seldom recognized. Scorpio, warrior I am, and from the battle I emerge triumphant. Scorpio establishes the inevitability of this final assumption of matter into heaven in Capricorn. Through aspiration, we develop vision. And in Sagittarius, the disciple can say, I see the goal.
Let the Lords of Liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of men. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and coming save. Come forth, Almighty One. Let the souls of men awaken to the light, and may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of woe has come. Come forth, Almighty One. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, Almighty One. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O Mighty One, and blend the three. Construct the great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end.
On the one road. Upon this narrow, razor-edged path, we learn to walk with discipline and discretion, and with the desirelessness which one experiences in unison with one's fellow disciples. The word we utter falls in Scorpio. Illusion cannot hold me. I am the bird that flies with utter freedom. From a treatise on white magic.
We have this beautiful poem that exemplifies the world disciple humanity that we read earlier, was read earlier. We will leave it on the screen, but we'll move forward because we've taken so much time today.
Let us continue to gather in the light. Scorpio, which has brought us the light of day. This is the place where three lights meet, the light of form, the light of soul, and the light of life. They meet, they blend, they rise. On to Sagittarius, a beam of directed focused light. In this the point of light becomes the beam, revealing a greater light ahead, and illumining the way to the center of the light. And with that focus, see the mountain top, Capricorn, the light of initiation. This is the light which clears the way to the mountain top and produces transfiguration, thus revealing the rising sun.
Thank you all for your time, your presence, and your mind coming together in the group mind to consider these important teachings. We carry on using meditation 4 in the coming year in a slightly different format. We'll continue in Sagittarius and in Capricorn, and then establish a new format for our advancing as a discipleship group into each sign in the coming year.